I am drinking a fantastic cup of coffee, and I'm super excited to keep rolling with you today. So, where are we? We got our ChatGPT, as we can see right here, which has brought us up to making the schema and all these wonderful things with Mongoose and MongoDB. Just to refresh your memory, we have in our Google Chrome our localhost 3000 up, so we've got our port up and running with Express. That's our backend proxy, right? This isn't our front-end client, you know? This is just a little message to show that we could technically build out static pages with routing, as we're going to do. But this is really in the backend, you know? We could put whatever we wanted here. We could actually even create authentication to access blah, 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 blah. That's working. Then we also have created code in order to add new users to the database, which we see worked successfully because we have a new user saved to the database. So we're getting successful log messages, but we double check those log messages with our actual database, because it's very important, and we see in our collections that we actually have a user. So it worked. Very nice. Fantastica. So what's the next step? Well, our backend's up and running. Our database is good. Our server's ready to go. The next thing we need is the actual application. We've done a lot of back-end heavy lifting. It's time to move to the front end of our application and actually build an application, right? Because you can have a wonderful back-end all good to go, but if you don't have a wonderful front end to connect together, well, that's only half wonderful, right? And imagine if the movie It's a Wonderful Life was called It's Half a Wonderful Life. It doesn't sound as good. It sounds half as good, maybe. All right, so how do we build a front-end part of our application? Well, why don't we ask ChatGPT how to do it for us? And then that's great, because that's what this course is about. And let's open up our list here. And it says, remember to do the front end, if you recall, install the necessary dependencies. We had Express for the proxy, we got Mongo for our back end, and we got React for the front end. And I think it even told us about React before. If we're not sure about what React is, we can even say, what is React? Or what is the React framework? And we're getting an error, so we're gonna refresh, and I'm gonna go back. If you get an error, you just gotta refresh and you go back. You know, they're scaling. There's a lot of people trying to use this. Click on the instance and scroll down to where we were. Let's say, what is the React framework? React is a JavaScript library for building. All right, they say it's a library. I think it is a library essentially, but it does work as a framework, you know, but it's a library. It was developed by Facebook. All right, blah, blah, blah. So if you didn't know, that is true. It's used for building web and mobile apps. There's React Native for mobile. These components can be combined. React uses virtual DOM, which is awesome for optimizing rendering. Hence why we have all these hooks or component mounting and dismounting. React also has a syntax extension. So JSX allows us, it's very similar to template engines in the sense where you can actually build JavaScript directly into your code. And it combines HTML and JavaScript. It can be a little bit confusing when you look at it, but JSX really is just the HTML-like code in your JavaScript file. See, that's what it says. That's actually what I was trying to say, and it said it better than me. Darn you, ChatGPT. Overall, React is a powerful, popular tool for building modern interactive user interfaces. Very good, very good, very good. So React is good for, so what's the takeaway? Well, React sounds like it's really good for building out a front end with JavaScript, and we're using JavaScript. So let's do it. Let's use React. So let's ask it a question to build it for us. Actually, let's ask it to build it for us. Let's say, build a front end with React to our Express and MongoDB app code above in order to add users and passwords to our database securely and test that it works. All right, so I'll just try this and let's see what it does, and then given that, we can go from there. So in order to build a front end with React to add users and passwords to your Express and MongoDB app, you're going to need to follow these steps. So it tells us right away, listen, you need React, so you gotta install React. You're gonna need React DOM. We're gonna wanna install create React app. Then we're gonna wanna create the React app. This will create a new directory called my app with the basic structure and files. Very good, this is all true. In your React app, create a component to the form, add new users. So we're gonna have a form, right? Because we're gonna have a form where we can input usernames and password, right? That makes sense too. We're gonna want a submit button so you can use the useState hook, all right? Handle for input changes, you can write a function. So useState and hooks in React are very powerful ways to provide state management. State management is one of the biggest reasons why React is great. There's three-level forms to state management, I would say. There's, if you have small apps, just using hooks. If your apps get a little bit larger, you can use Context API. And then if it gets larger, you can use Redux, all right? Or the Redux toolkit. I'd say even just skip to the Redux toolkit because it's fantastic. Now, if that all sounds confusing, all that really means is, remember, when you build an application, you're going to have all this information, right? You're going to have different components, right? With React, what you can do is you can separate the components in a really organized fashion. Like, you could have different types of components. Like if it's a weather app, think about it. You're going to have a component that shows you the days of what's happening with the weather. Another component to check, let's say, different cities. Another component to search for other kinds of things. Each one is a component, and in each component, you're going to have state, like the thing, which are the dynamic things that are changing throughout the app. Now, how you work with state is very important, right? And the more complex your app gets, the more important it is to think about how you're going to use state. All right, so that's what that's about. We have Axios is very good for async functions libraries. If you want to do fetching, you can use Axios. Test your front end, as we're going to see. Test your front end by filling out the form and submitting it. You should see the new user and password added to the database. Here's an example of what it would look like. Ooh, wow. You even get the whole example. Wow. Let's go up to the top. Use React in a tool chain, create React by running. So let's do these things. So I'm going to go to my terminal. And I go to the other tab here. And we're going to install React. And this is, by the way, a global installation to create React app. I already have that, so I don't need to do that. But if you've never done that, you could go ahead and do that. So I'm going to first do this. npm install React and React DOM. Then I'm going to create React app, my app. Hey, I guess I need to globally install it again. So that didn't work, so I'm going to install the create React app globally. Let me run this as a sudo command. Just means I could get global installation privileges. Make sure that it works properly. Okay, and now I'm going to do create React app, my app. Now it should create, when you run this command, it's going to actually set up the entire client-side boilerplate for React for you. It does the whole shebang. I mean, can we be so lucky? Can we be so lucky in 2023 as developers? I think not. Actually, I think that expression should be, I think so, not 100% sure. Happy hacking. All right, so after you've done that, you should see that you have some nice successful messages and some happy hacking at the bottom. Created my app. Hacking used to really be a negative term. I mean, I guess it still is in many ways, but I like how they try to give it this whole positive swing. All right, so, like hackathons and whatnot. All right, so full stack app. So now, if I were to list out what's in the full stack app and you were to list it out, we should see package.json. We also see the package lock.json file, which just it just locks the versions. Now that we have, things are getting pretty spicy now that we have React. We've got server, but we also have this new folder, my app. Now, if I go into my app, and let's do this in actually a different tab. So I'm going to open another tab. I'm going to cd into my app. And then from my app, if I list what's in here, we see we got a README file, we got another package.json, we've got a public file, a source file, node, and a package log.json. Now I could go ahead and ask ChatGPT what are all these things and what do they mean. To save us time, let me just go to Visual Studio Code and show you. So I'm going to open up the file directory to the left of me here. And I see the same thing, my app. I open it up. Let's go through this together. So node modules, these are all the essential node modules that you get when you use create React app. You're going to get way more than 57, as you can see. We get all sorts of things like Tailwind, which is great for CSS, safe buffering, sending. We got regex libraries to make regular expressions easier. Babel, so that we can do JavaScript, linting. There's all sorts of these are just fantastic libraries that come with React, which is why React is so powerful. It even has Express. Then we have a public folder. The public folder essentially holds all the public information of the HTML and everything else of our application. Because remember, essentially web applications need to have HTML as an index file. And you're wrapping the root of React as a virtual DOM over the index. That's what this div ID root is, right? And if I go into the source folder and I take a look at index.js, we see how we're getting element by ID root. That's the root in the index. So remember, it's just a regular HTML index file, but then we wrap React around it. We render to the root React, and then we're no longer using this regular document object model. We're using the virtual DOM, and the virtual DOM is the React DOM, and that's JavaScript, and JavaScript is way more powerful, faster for building apps. So that's just how React works and why it's powerful. Always good to know these things. And then what else do we see? We see other code, app.css. This is cascading style sheets. This actually styles our web page. We even have an app.js. What's this? This is our application. This is the front end code already built for us. This function app is a functional component that essentially just writes out our whole app for us, right? Not the app, not the game, but basically the template you get when you start Create React App. All right, and then we have a package.json here, and if we check the scripts, we see a start script. And that's the last thing I want to show you. So if I go to terminal now, and in our my app, if I were to write npm start, it's going to say, would you like to run the app on another port instead? I'm going to hit yes for Y, or Y for yes, and we're going to see localhost 3001, and take a look at that. What is this? This is our client side. It's working. Literally, by typing in 3 lines of code, we're ready to build an entire front-end application and connect it to our backend. It's as easy as that. Now, you could have gone and figured all this out by asking ChatGPT basically 5 questions that I just explained and gone through each one. But of course, I want to just show you myself as well. That's what these 3 lines of code, essentially has brought in an extremely, extremely powerful library that's up and operational. So you should see this running now on localhost 3001. It chooses another port. It checks to see if 3000 is taken. 3000 should be taken because we should have our server up on the back over here in 3000. So since it's taken, it moves to 3001 automatically. All that code's already written for us. Isn't that amazing? Let's stop here. And in the next lesson, let's actually understand how React works more using ChatGPT, because I know you're excited about ChatGPT. And then from there, let's actually do the real important thing that we need to do, which is actually build out routes for user authentication and creating and validating user accounts. And then we can do the actual game. Okay? Okay. Great stopping point. Great work making it this far. Make some, celebrate, have some coffee. If you're stuck, take your time and make sure you get to this point where all this is working. Once it's working, I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.